I want to just remind everybody of what the problem is. Why are you even involved with water?
Well, water is taken for granted in the United States. We open the faucet, the water pours. We flush the toilet, the water goes away. And we don't give it much further thought. But when we first got into the water industry, we learned an amazing fact, which is that our national infrastructure is falling apart. And when it comes to infrastructure, we are a third world country, and it's starting to show up all over the country. And people just aren't noticing if it's not happening to them. Oh, Flint, yeah, that was terrible, but that's not me. And Compton, that was terrible, that's not me. But the fact is that the American Society of Civil Engineers has predicted that just 5 years from now, we will be in the red each year by $435 billion. Unmet expenses each year, almost $500 billion, and nobody has figured out how to meet it.
That's just in water infrastructure?
Exactly. The problem is federal funding has collapsed for water. The utilities are trying to charge people more, but that's only creating defaults. So literally people are being reduced to bottled water when they need the water the most. And now these days to do unfunded mandates. You've heard about forever chemicals, right? Forever chemicals are very important. And the EPA said we got to stop them. And they provided for all 150,000 water systems in America, they provided a grand total of $5 billion to deal with it. In other words, nothing. But now it's much more because of the effects of climate change. So we have a lot more sewer overflows, saltwater intrusion, a number of things happening structurally that we're not built for. And so there's really no better answer. If you have too many people riding a horse, the answer is not to get a bigger horse. The answer is to get people off the horse. 90% of all water demand is by industry and agriculture. So they are the ones who are really creating the problem. And we have a solution, which is let them do their own. And what they're actually delighted to do it, because there's many reasons why, they're delighted to do it. And this takes them off the grid. And now the central municipal system can operate to serve the people.
I was looking at some stats on your website, and water rates have increased 80% from 2010 to 2019, at 4.5 times or 4.25 times faster than inflation. I don't think people think about this. We pay for the water coming into our house. We pay for the water that we drink, which people don't want to drink the water coming out of the faucet. 105 million Americans actually have unsafe water. And we don't even think about how water and the chemicals in water get absorbed into our skin from our showers, from our baths. We don't think about that. We just think about what we put in our mouths. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. You guys have come up with a solution. Talk about that.
Solution is decentralization. In other words, right now, industry and agriculture are dumping their effluent into the city system. Why? Because they can, right? Now we say, okay, but here's the problem. They're now being sued for those effluents because the cities aren't doing a good job of cleaning them up. And so the originating industry still gets in trouble. So they still get blamed. So might as well, if you're going to get blamed, might as well do it yourself, right? And so we take them off the grid. It gives them 3 benefits. The first one is that they get lower water rates, right? Water rate inflation, water and sewage rate inflation is rising faster than college tuition or health costs, right? It's by far the fastest growing. People it's not on any charts, but that's where it is. So
I want you to say that again, please.
Water rate and sewage rate inflation is occurring faster than college tuition or healthcare costs.
Okay.
Which is already the top, the worst.
Yes.
But nobody mentions this.
We got to have water. There's no way around it.
So this is our solution. When industry does their own, they get their own water system. Now it's subject to regular inflation of parts and services, right? It's not ridiculous. And secondly, they can, if you're treating your own water, you can reuse your own water, which reduces your incoming costs and increases availability of fresh water. And the third one is that you're not involved in city politics. As long as you meet the permit requirements, you're like, I'm good. You guys do your thing. We meet the permit requirements. Those 3 reasons, probably the third one, actually, I'm being told, are paramount for a lot of companies because they don't want to be part of that mess that's going on. And so since 2016, when I got excited about this, we have been pursuing this angle, and we have built 2 companies, one of which it handles the very, very large customers, power plants and so forth, one big client at a time kind of thing. And the other is these modular assembly line systems that drop into smaller sites. And between them, they're doing a great job. They're growing fast. There's a lot of demand. But that is not the end of what we've done, but it is the first major, major milestone is decentralization.
I think I read somewhere where water companies are actually refusing to take the water from some of these companies because of how dirty it is and they can't clean it, or what are they rejecting?
Or there's too much. There was a brewery in the East Bay of San Francisco that literally the city was saying, no, you got too much effluent, and they were being forced to truck it to another county, right? So they just went and got their own system. They went off the grid.
If it's my house, when I flush the toilet, turn on the shower, the water goes down the drain and goes back into the sewage system, which goes back to the city for treatment. And then the whole thing, it does all the stuff it's supposed to do. Is that right?
Correct. So we're not saying replace the incoming water. Let it continue to come from the city. They do a fine job of that. But now once we have it, we want to return, we want to treat the water, and either we sprinkle, we use it for irrigation, or we return it to the city, treated, or we recycle, then we do all those things. And these are all beneficial outcomes. And in fact, what we've calculated is that if right now, America only recycles less than 1% of its water. If industry and agriculture recycled 15% of their water, we believe that freshwater supplies would double in America.
We're talking industry and agriculture. We're not talking mom and pop in their house on Main Street.
And what's the priority? The priority is the big users. And they're the ones that make the big difference. And they're also the source of all the worst toxins that are creating all the bad water in America. So we solve a number of issues at one shot by having them do it themselves. And that's what's so exciting about this. And it's creating a whole new industry, because it's like when AT&T broke up and it created all the Ma Bells and so forth, but it also created the internet, MCI. It's a totally different game. So what happens is when markets are broken up or decentralized, they explode in value, right? Take mainframes. Mainframes were a particular market, and I'm old enough to remember having to book time on the mainframe to get my time on it, right?
Okay.
It was very efficient for the mainframe, very inefficient for the user. Then what happened was PCs. So we flipped it around, and now it's very inefficient for the PC, which just sits there most of the day doing nothing, waiting for you. But it's very efficient for me, the user, because when I need it, I got it.
Yeah.
And it's also a vastly larger market than mainframes alone. The water, we have the central municipal utilities. They're like, we'll take care of everything. We'll do it all. We're all good. And so all the water companies are servicing the central utilities, but now it's breaking up into small systems all over the place. Now it's the rise of the local water company that is increasingly doing smaller systems, downscale systems, of which there are many, many more, right? Mm-hmm. If I have one giant central system or 100 smaller systems, the 100 smaller systems cost more than the one giant system just because of the efficiencies of scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's more responsive. So it's a bigger market. There's more activity. And you might argue there's more compliance because these industries are being held to their own standards. Not only that, it's less vulnerable to cyber attacks because, again, it's been distributed. It's not these giant central systems. We focus more on the everyday user, the brewery, the trailer park, RV campgrounds, garden variety users, housing developments that are all over the place. And so our job is to make it box stock simple. Here's our pod. It's got everything. We bring it out on a semi. We drop it onto a pad, plug it in just like you plug in your RV, and you're up and running. That is a revolution in water. Until recently, all you could do was just suffer the consequences, find the $500,000 somewhere, and just do it. And we have a case where we helped a company, a trailer park, and this actually was in the news, the Neville Home Park, where the owner, she was faced with the trailer park being shut down because of violations. So she ended up, in order to get our system, she had to give away half of the equity in the mobile home park. But she was safe. She had 50% of something as opposed to 100% of nothing, right?
Right,
okay.
Right.
Now, since then, we've come up with the next thing, which is, ma'am, you don't have to worry about that. Just sign here and you get your system. It's our machine. It's a long-term contract. It's a lot like these solar deals. It's a long-term contract, and you just pay a monthly fee that's based on consumption, and it's on your operating expenses, and that's the end of that. So we call that water on demand. And the real question is, because anything that's monthly recurring revenue is far more profitable than a single sale.
Mm-hmm.
We've calculated, for example, that a 20-year contract of our system would return the original net profit from the original sale plus 19 times that sale over those 20 years.
Okay.
So the original plus 19 times. So that's just initial. It may reduce a little bit in the end, but it's multiples. Okay.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't everyone do it? Right? Well, I like to say there's a wonderful thing called the anti-gravity chair. We have the chair. Where's the anti-gravity?
Yeah.
In other words, I'm a water company and I want to help this poor mobile home park and I want to give them a system and a 20-year contract. Where do I find the capital to pay for that? If they don't pay for it, who's going to pay? And as a result, this new space, which is called water as a service, is booming. It's happening, but it's all big players. It's private equity and big water. Now, regular water companies don't get to play because they don't have capital, but we figured out a solution, which is that we set it up so ordinary investors like you could invest and have a piece of those water systems, a lot like investing in an oil well, right? You get a royalty on the oil well's production. So you have a basket of these properties and it's operated for these profits. And from that, you get profits and then the royalty is shared with the investors. Plus they get a wonderful deal with shares and this, that. It's a very nice deal because it's so early. Okay, but the bottom line is that we found a way, and we're the only people who've done this, we found a way for us, the ordinary water company, to fund these things from ordinary investors. And that is our superpower.